America turns 250 years old today, and almost everything you learned about this day in school is wrong. I have spent over 30 years digging into the founding of this country, and the real story beats the legend. Today I will tell you what actually happened in July of 1776, because the truth deserves to be told. By the end, you will know why we might be celebrating the wrong day, and the myth behind the famous signing. And I will tell you about a coincidence so strange that historians still get chills when they talk about it. So settle in for a few minutes, and let me tell you the July 4th story they never taught you in school. It starts in the summer of 1776, in a hot, crowded room in Philadelphia, with the doors locked shut. 56 men were about to commit treason against the most powerful empire on earth. The punishment for that was death. What happened in that room changed the world forever. But the date everyone remembers? That is where it gets strange. Here is the first thing they never told you. America did not vote for independence on July 4th. The actual vote happened 2 days earlier, on July 2nd, 1776. That was the day the colonies broke free. John Adams was there, and he knew exactly how big that moment was. He wrote to his wife that very week. July 2nd would be celebrated by every generation of Americans, with parades, cannons, and illuminations. He got everything right except the date. The man predicted the fireworks, the parties, the whole celebration. So why do we celebrate the 4th? Because that was the day Congress approved the final text of the Declaration. The printer stamped July 4th on every copy that went out to the colonies, and that date is what people saw. Copies spread to every town square in America, and the date printed at the top became the date everyone remembered. Adams was so bitter about it that he reportedly refused invitations to July 4th celebrations for the rest of his life. Imagine predicting the biggest holiday in American history, and then watching the country celebrate it 2 days late, every single year. So tonight, when the fireworks light up the sky, remember, the real birthday might have been 2 days ago. And that is only the first secret. The famous scene of the signing? It never happened at all. Everyone knows the famous scene. All the founders together in one grand room, signing the Declaration on July 4th. Here is the problem. That moment never happened. There was no big signing ceremony on July 4th. None. Most of the 56 signers did not put their names on that document until August 2nd, almost a month later. Some signed even later than that, and a few were not in Philadelphia at all when independence was declared. On the actual 4th of July, only the President of Congress and one secretary put their names on anything. Look at the document today and one name jumps out, twice the size of every other. That was on purpose. And here is the part nobody mentions. The names of the signers were kept secret for months afterward. Why? Because signing that paper was treason. Every man who signed knew he was signing his own death warrant. If the revolution failed, that list was a hanging list. Those men bet their lives on an idea. Some of them lost everything. Homes burned, fortunes gone, families driven out. They paid dearly for that signature. So the real story is not proud men in a fancy hall. It is 56 men gambling everything they had. And the strangest part of this whole story is what happened exactly 50 years later, to the very day. 2 of the men who built this country made an exit so perfectly timed, it still does not feel real. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were partners in 1776. Adams argued for independence, and Jefferson wrote the words. Then they became bitter enemies. They ran against each other for president, and those campaigns turned truly vicious. For more than 10 years, the 2 men who built America refused to speak to each other. Total silence. Late in life, they finally made peace and began exchanging letters that lasted the rest of their days. Which brings us to July 4th, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the Declaration. 50 years to the day. That morning in Massachusetts, John Adams was fading at 90 years old, while the whole town celebrated outside his window. And down in Virginia, the man who wrote the Declaration was fading too. He had been holding on for days. From his bed, Jefferson kept asking the same question over and over. Is it the 4th yet? Is it the 4th? He passed shortly after noon on July 4th, exactly 50 years after his own words declared a nation. Up in Massachusetts, his old rival died that same evening, comforted by the thought that his friend was still alive. 2 founders, 2 deaths, same day, on the 50th anniversary. The entire country saw it as a sign from heaven. And it gets stranger. James Monroe, the 5th president, also died on July 4th, just 5 years after them. 3 of the first 5 American presidents died on Independence Day. No other date in history carries weight like that. Coincidence? Maybe. But sitting here 250 years later, it is hard not to feel something bigger. So tonight, America turns 250. 10 generations carried this story from that locked room to your backyard. The cookouts, the parades, the fireworks. This whole tradition started with a promise one founder made to his family. He asked for illuminations from one end of the continent to the other. Look up tonight. There they are. 2 days late, maybe. But 250 years strong, and that is worth celebrating loudly. The men in that room never saw what their gamble became. 56 signatures grew into hundreds of millions of stories. Your story is one of them. That is what this day actually means, beneath the hot dogs and the noise. So the next time someone wishes you a happy 4th of July, you will know the real story behind those words. Happy birthday, America. 250 years of the greatest story ever gambled on. If you love the history they never taught you in school, hit subscribe, because there is a lot more where this came from. Every week I dig into another forgotten piece of the American story. Tonight, enjoy the fireworks. You have earned them.